Seismic Smash. That ability that they added to Outlanders that freaked out many new players with the hero rework when they realized that their anti-material charge was gone and they could no longer punch with Outlanders. Little do they know, right-clicking your pickaxe was just as good. Welcome to the video on Seismic Smash. So this is a loadout I've been actually having some really decent fun with recently on stream. It's not extremely powerful. You'll see that it's not extremely tanky. It's kind of hard to stay alive, but I think its niche is something that actually keeps it in the action because with Ice Queen as your lead, you can freeze smashers right in place. Oh yeah, we're getting right into this, you guys. And that is probably the only way that I have personally found that Seismic Smash is actually usable. I'm going to say it right off the bat. I use the fire Kamiha Akuna Matata dude that you can get from the Battle Breakers event. I don't know if that'll be available forever, so if you're in the future, you might not be able to get him, but even if you can't get him, he's not exactly useful for two reasons. One, he can't freeze a smasher, which is a huge part of this build. Not just smashers, but mist monsters or anything that's shooting at you, obviously. If you can freeze them in place and do more damage to them while they're frozen, that is super, super useful. And his stun kind of sends stuff everywhere. It's kind of hard to work with. It's not really that big of a deal. And then, of course, the other reason that he's useless is because if you're freezing enemies in place, you don't exactly need to be stunning them. It's a dead perk. I don't know if the impact is that big of a deal, but again, you're stunning enemies that are frozen, so like you're kind of doing the same thing twice. So I did use him in a build while I was on stream and it just did nothing. So I don't actually have a legendary variant of Vanguard Southie, and you better believe I'm not about to spend I'm not about to spend legendary flux on this, but he is something that's quite nice to reduce the cooldown because it's very, very important to have that cooldown reduction. I mean, obviously you want to get off as many of these as possible. Fuel for the Fallen is great because when you're spamming your Seismic Smash all the time, you should also be using your Shock Tower because it's kind of nice extra damage in between that 6-second cooldown for the Seismic Smash. Not to mention it's also very effective for just area of effect damage, just to kill everything around you. And Return the Sender is just super, super good. I mean, that basically doubles the amount of damage that your Seismic Smash does, and it increases the impact, which, again, I don't know how useful that is when you're already freezing your enemies, but it's kind of nice to have regardless, because if you Seismic Smash once, it does X amount of damage, but with Return to the Sender, it just comes back and does the same damage twice. It basically doubles the damage of your Seismic Smash, and it's just kind of a nice deal to have. I threw Bomb Suit on this. That is because of, as I mentioned, it's not very tanky. It's not extremely good in terms of survivability. In fact, I was using this, like I mentioned on stream, and the first thing that I noticed is when the mission actually started, I was the first one to die. Hell, we actually failed the Deliver the Bomb mission right off the bat. We had to use more Blue Glow because I just could not solo in that higher zone. So this shows that this is a much more effective as a support build rather than anything else. Just like Sub-Zero Zenith, who is the sniper guy who freezes enemies on crit, he can be more useful in more different ways. These are not the same characters, but they are the only two heroes in the game that I'm personally aware of in the moment that can actually freeze enemies, disregarding the 6th perk on the Blizzard Blitzer. That's a totally different subject. Now, the thing that I was using in place of Bomb Suit would have actually been Sustained Smash, which reduces the energy cost, but as I mentioned with Fuel for the Fallen, if you're killing enemies, you're going to be getting plenty of energy back, and seeing as your Shock Tower and your Seismic Smash are the only two things that you're using and they have plenty of cooldown, you don't exactly need to reduce your energy cost. It's not that big of a deal. Granted, you might want to actually have your phase shift available, but it's kind of an empty perk. I'm going to leave this one up to you guys to sort of put in whatever you want. Doesn't really matter much. And I'm a huge fan of going coconuts for two reasons. One, I mean, damage, 16% extra is nice, and survivability. I mean, they heal about a third of your health instantly, plus a 20 to 30 second residual healing time afterwards, so it's just a great way to stay alive. And that 16% damage actually does remind me, mid-recording here, that Azealia Clark is a thing, so ability energy damage up by 15.5%. That's not seriously significant. Remember, the amount of usefulness you're getting from her Seismic Smash isn't precisely the damage that it does, rather the fact that it freezes enemies in place and allows you to kill them more effectively. That's something to consider, but it's really not that big of a deal. And another option that I almost forgot to mention was a buff to your Shock Tower. So while I was using some of these other heroes, I've tried this loadout in quite a number of ways. If you apply like affliction damage with static cling, I think that's actually more effective than straight up more damage to the Shock Tower. I don't actually even remember who does that. I'll try to find him while I'm talking here, but yeah, there you go. You can buff the shock tower damage. I think the affliction might be more useful overall, but you know, something to buff your shock tower might be nice, seeing as we've pretty much buffed our seismic smash as much as it's really gonna go here. You're kind of just open to having fun with this loadout as you want to go. Now, what I did notice is the fact that when you freeze enemies, it doesn't actually seem to do any frozen damage, so I wasn't actually able to see any difference in the damage versus like a nature enemy which should be resistant to frozen damage or a fire enemy which should actually take more damage from it. I wasn't actually able to see any noticeable difference in that, and if you experience something different, let me know in the comments below, but that's kind of what's cool about this. So you do a 14% extra damage to frozen enemies on top of freezing them in place, and you can stop a smasher mid-charge, which makes this a super useful build. Obviously, all of this kind of relies pretty heavily on Happy Holidays. You don't need this. I mean, 40% isn't that big of a deal. Our cooldown is like 6 seconds. So without this, I'm going to even just see live on stream. It was about 6 seconds beforehand, and now it's 10 seconds. So is a 4-second difference really that big of a deal? I'm going to leave that one up to you guys. If you don't think it's that big of a deal and you're free to use this without that, then I would highly recommend Blast from the Past. It's just so useful. I've mentioned several times how easy it is to die with this loadout, so Blast from the Past and a little bit of a hero rework would keep you alive nice and well. In fact, you could replace Fuel for the Fallen with the Dino Southie dude, because he'll be giving you 4 energy per second always, not just 6 per second per kill, because, you know, Fuel for the Fallen is currently bugged right now and has been since he released. And Bombs, so you can just put Iza. Like, there are better alternatives to 2 of our support group if you go with Blast from the Past, but like I said, you're going to have a longer cooldown, so it's kind of up to you. So that's the Seismic Smash build. Not a serious build. This is not something I use in the hardest of missions. If I'm really trying, this is the last thing I consider. But if I'm kind of bored midstream, or chat wants to see something interesting, or I'm just trying to make the game more fun for myself, honestly, it is actually a very fun loadout and something I really do enjoy using. And I'm not just saying that. I've used this quite a bit, and I will definitely be using it more in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any suggestions for other loadouts, things you should change, or something you also had fun using, leave it in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe if you're new. Hope you guys have a nice day, and thanks for watching.